Welcome back to the channel. Yeah, today, getting closer to finishing up. I just, did a little bit of the pink around the lettering. Looks a little soppy. I'll clean it up, trust me. But yeah, as I continue on, I started really thinking about just the last few days, just thinking about life and all the ups and downs. And I'm sure, a lot of you, watching this kind of, let's see if I can get this here. Y'all know, like, y'all probably gone through things, your own ups and downs in life. And so, I started thinking about it, like, man, should I talk about my ups and downs in life? And, I'm a firm believer that, as a man, I should, right? I should talk about those hard things to help other people, whether you identify as a man, woman, or whatever it may be, right? That you can maybe learn from what I've gone through. And so, yeah, I've just been really thinking about ups and downs in my life and the struggles and how they kind of, they've helped me maybe to some degree, helped me grow, how they've hurt me. Because the reality is, even if you're like, you have crazy ups and downs, sometimes those downs can make you stronger. I think people don't always consider that. Let's see if I can get this without ruining it. Of course, I ruined it. Moving on. And so I just, kind of starting over about my life. And I will say that, where is it? I think it starts for me really early in life. I was very blessed. My first major memory is like around like 10 months. Because most people don't remember like actual physical things to like a year and a half and after. But me, my first one is 10 months. And my first memory is my mother getting her ass beat by my biological father. And just being on top of the stairs with my sister while she's kind of like holding me, because I was walking already. I'm crazy. I was walking already by 10 months. That's how I get this fat ass scar on my head, because I whacked myself into a coffee table. Go me. But yeah, like just remembering that and how that can affect you. Like, and when I mean by beating the crap out of my mom, I mean he's beating the fuck out of her. Like beating her. And I told my mom that story. I was like, and she was like, bullshit. You don't remember that. And I start breaking down to her the color of the carpet, the wood paneling walls going down the stairs, and what happened. And my mom starts tearing up. She starts crying because she's like, holy shit. That's his first real memory. And so, yeah. Those type of memories, they stick with you, y'all. And I don't think people, want to tell you the truth. Even as a kid, let's say you're like, well, I don't remember having memories like that. You may not actually remember them, right? But that doesn't mean that your brain didn't remember them. So for example, because you only remember emotionally as a child, that trauma could have been there. And so kind of going on with that is like, that's my first memory. But I want to be fair. Like, I do remember my biological father, sitting on his hood of his Dodge Charger. It was like a 1960s, 70s, I think, Dodge Charger. And so, yeah, I mean, I remember good moments like that when I was real young too. But the bad ones stick with you. And realistically, my parents, they end up breaking up, and Well, my mom ended up running away from my biological father, which ultimately was a good decision because, you know, my mom shouldn't have been in a situation that was going to end up hurting her, right? So I commend her for having the courage to leave, which a lot of women don't leave. And so if any women are watching this and you're abused, leave. He's not going to get better. He's not going to get better. I've seen it too many times in my life where women think that their man's going to get better. They're not. You can't fix him. He has to fix himself. Leave. And trust me, there are people out there that will help you. There will be people out there that will help you escape this. There's guys out there that will punch dudes in the face for you. There are police officers that will help you. There's a lot of people. And I know it's difficult. You're not a failure for it. And I'm really glad that my mom took that step. Even though, you know, me and my sister and my mom had to live in a homeless shelter, you know, like a battered women's shelter. You know, I know that had to be difficult. I know that had to hit her pride. And so I commend my mom for that. You know, that was a very difficult time. So I'm really proud of her for taking that step. I just butchered that line. Eek. So, really proud of my mom. But, you know, those are the moments that we don't realize that can start to shape us. And what I mean by that is, it starts this level of trauma and the ball can keep rolling. And now that my biological father is not in my life, we know studies show that young boys, they need their dad. They need their dad to show them how to be a man. And I know some women are going to get on here and say, well, we can do it too. We can be a mom and a dad. Yeah, you can to some degree. But there are some instinctive things that a boy needs from his father. And let's not discredit that. Just like me, if I was a father, a single father, I know I'm not going to, you know, I may be able to do some of the things a mother can do, but there's certain things I'm not going to be able to do. And I'm going to rely on people to help with that. And so there's this level of hate that I grew up, you know, and my biological father he didn't do himself justice, you know, driving by the house, threatening to pull out guns and stuff like that, burning rubber outside, you know, trying to scare my mom and stuff like that. Oh, shoot. I messed that up or whatever. Moving on. And so, yeah, I mean, he didn't do himself any justice in my book. I think he caused more damage than good. But what ends up happening is there's this level of hate, these questions that come up in my head. Am I not good enough for my biological father? And in this case, I wasn't good enough. Maybe, right? Because I had a court case because he was trying to get custody. And what does he do? He pulls out his wallet in front of my lawyer and his lawyer. And he tells my sister, who was older than me by 2 years, oh, I have a picture of you in my wallet because I love you. And he looks at me. He's like, I don't care a picture of you in my wallet. I don't love you because you're a boy. Yeah, he lost that custody battle right off that line. But the impact that had on me, it's like, man, I don't feel loved. My father doesn't love me. And some people say, well, guys, you don't need love. We do need love, especially when we're younger, man. And so what did that create in me? That created a ball of fury, of anger. And I will tell you, like, I'm very blessed that I didn't kill somebody, you know, as a teenager, as a young adult, because I had so much anger in my heart. And I think sometimes when we look at boys that are destructive or hard to control, We don't ask these questions like, what's going on with them? What are they holding in? What don't they know how to release? I didn't know how to release that anger. I was so angry with the world, And trust me, guys, I was a very intelligent kid. I was super intelligent, high IQ, got a great high ACT score. But just because you're intelligent doesn't mean that you are not hurt, that you can't be destructive. And trust me, I was definitely destructive physically and emotionally and in so many different ways. And I've done things to people that I regret. And so, but you're probably wondering, oh, how did he get over that shit? How did he move on? And I will tell you, did I move on? I guess move on is such a loaded term because I don't think you truly move on from trauma. I think you rationalize it, you learn to understand it, and you learn to live with it. And so for me, I started to ask myself a lot of questions. Therapy definitely helped later on. Obviously, meeting my wife really helped, because she kind of pushed that, like, hey, you have a lot of trauma. My wife, she's a therapist, or was a therapist. And so I really started doing that work and I took it serious. And I said to myself, I went through all that stuff, start rationalize it. And then I asked myself this question that nobody asked me. What was he going through? What expectations caused him to lead a life that way? Because my mom told me, she tells me this all the time. And it doesn't hurt me that she says this. She says, you are the best. You have all the best parts of your father. You don't have the negative parts. He's like, sometimes I look at you, the way you treat your wife, the way you cuddle with her, and sometimes the way you caress her face. She's like, it makes me want to cry because that's how he treated me. She's like, you have all that kind-heartedness. And then I asked my mom, because I wanted to know, what demons was he holding in? Because we all have demons inside of us. We all do. We all have a monster lurking underneath our skin. And you got to learn to control it. You got to bring it in. Reel that motherfucker in and make it part of you, right? To understand it. And she told me, she's like, he started changing when his brother and his dad came from Mexico. It all changed with the simple line, essentially, why are you being such a pussy? Why is your wife running you? Why are you giving her options? Why are you letting her speak out? Yeah, I mean, do I believe there's something called toxic masculinity? Hell yeah, there is. But I see that. There's that cultural expectations of him ruling, of, kind of saying, like, you're supposed to be this way, like me and your brother, your dad. And on top of that, he started drinking more, smoking, doing, other drugs. Yeah, and he just came out and became just a shitty version of himself, which really sucks, right? But I wanted to understand him as a man, and you're probably saying, why don't you ask your biological dad? He can give you more information than your mom. You're right. He probably could, but he's dead. He died alone, and not even my sisters from his other marriage, they can't even tell me Because it's a different perspective, you know. Us men, we hold shit in, which is not good. So I can't. So I have to put pieces together, right, and figure it out, and help myself understand. And so yeah, I understood like this push for him to go into that dark side of being a woman abuser. You know, essaying my mom, abusing her physically, mentally, sexually. Not cool, right? Not giving him a break. But I understand where that plague entered his body and it took over. And then alcohol accelerated it. So that's that part, like just trying to understand him, because at the end of the day, I have to learn to forgive him. I had to learn to forgive him. Because in order to get rid of that anger, I had to understand. That doesn't mean accepting the bad things, what he did, but to really break it down. And for me, that was very important on my journey of healing. And so, yeah, I was able to do that, look at that. And, you know, and even just talking to my mom and understanding how my mom was able to forgive him. And I will be honest with you, my mom doesn't like me saying this, but I know my mom didn't love me growing up as much as she should have, because I looked just like my father. I looked just like him, splitting image. Even when I met my sisters on Facebook, they had questioned like, why is someone using my dead dad's photo as their profile picture? Yeah, I'm just larger than he is. I'm a bigger man. And so there's even that trauma I had to work through, but that's a whole different thing. But then I had to ask this question, why didn't my dad love me? That's a hard question. And the reality is, most people cannot ask that question out loud, because the answer may be too hurtful, right? But me, I wanted to know the answer. Dead ass, I wanted to know the answer. And I was okay with what I was going to find. If I felt like my dad didn't love me, so be it. And so I asked myself, why did he say he didn't love me during the court case? And it hit me. It was, to some degree, it could have been a misunderstanding. But from his mindset, from how he was raised, boys are not loved, right? We should be respected. But in his mind, just like his father and other people I know, they're trying to embrace strong men, and love is, some people view that as a weakness. They view it as like, you love your daughters, your sons. No, you respect your sons. They earn that respect. Do I think my dad loved me? Yes. Do I think my biological father loved me? The answer is yeah. Do I think he didn't know how to articulate that within that realm of toxic masculinity and, societal norms? Yeah, I don't think he knew how to articulate that. Because the reality is, who teaches you how to be a father? Who teaches you how to love your children? It should be your parents, right? And sometimes they do a shitty job at them themselves. So who really taught you that? And so I accepted that. I accepted that my father did love me. And I know some people are going to be like, man, you're forcing it now. And you might be right. I might be forcing it. I might be giving him an out. Right? And that might be the case, and I'm not going to bullshit you guys. But I'm pretty sure that's what the case was. And so I was able to move down that path of forgiveness. But what helped me at the end of the day to forgive him and let go of that pain was I was in Albuquerque at a conference, and there was a sweat lodge. A Native American Latina lady was doing a sweat lodge. I can't say the word in Spanish. I'm sorry, my Spanish sucks, but whatever. And I did a sweat lodge. Me, my wife, and a bunch of other people that we knew from the conference. You know, you drink some tea, and you're sweating your ass off. Be honest, you do a sweat lodge. You guys will love it. It made me, I'll be real with you, man, I was hallucinating shit. I don't know what was in that tea, but whatever. But when I was in that tea, when I was in that, at that moment, we were supposed to ask ourselves, we were supposed to confront some pain. And some people this worked for, some people didn't. Like me, it worked really well because guess what? I'm not afraid of confronting pain in my life. And so even the lady was like, yeah, he probably got the most out of this. And that's me connecting back to my indigenous roots because I am also Potawatomi and Ojibwe. But during that moment, man, I started I saw my biological father. I saw him in that moment. And I got to talk to him. During this sweat lodge, I got to talk to my biological father. I know some of y'all, it's probably hard for y'all to believe. But I got to see him. I got to ask him questions. I got to hear him say, I made a mistake. I fucked up. I got to hear him say, I'm a bad father. I got to hear him say that he loved me. And I'll be real with you guys, I'm a little emotional right now. I don't know if you can hear it in my voice. I got to hear him tell me that he loved me. And at one point, I hugged him. And it was like I was a little 11-year-old boy. Or about 11. That was 11. Yeah, 11. That was the last time I saw my father. He was outside of my aunt's restaurant in Illinois. Because I was with my stepdad. And my stepdad is really, really weird. His kids actually lived in the town where my dad was, and they knew my dad, and he came out, and I was scared at first. And I remember my stepdad telling me, you need to go out there, you need to hug him. And I did. He bribed me, by the way. He gave me $150. But I know why he did it. He wanted me to confront my demons. But back to the sweat lodge. I was transformed that moment when I remembered hugging my dad around his waist, feeling his warmth, feeling his hands, feeling his hug. And I had kind of forgot that feeling. And him telling me that he loved me and he messed up. And him telling me that I am the best part of him. I am going to be the man that he couldn't be. I will be real with you guys. That shit fucked me up. I was crying. Through all the chanting that we were doing in there, the indigenous chanting, I was bawling. Because that was my point. To not only feel him him again, and him to be able to tell me he's loved me and he's proud of me for the man I am, but also for me to apologize. I apologize to my dad. Even though the last time I saw him, I was like an 11-year-old boy. I apologized to him because I didn't go see him as an adult. That I wasn't in the right headspace to help him, to be there for him, to be a strong man to help my father heal. And my father died alone. His stomach, essentially, he didn't go to the hospital, and he got a really bad leak and got into his bloodstream, had a super bad heart attack. And my sisters and their mom, just like a month or two before that, they had left. They left him and moved to California because he didn't change really much. And I remember my sister Maria, should not drop her own name, but whatever. She called me and said, crying, she's like, our father died. And my response was, good, I don't give a fuck. I'm glad he's dead. Yeah, pretty shitty kind of, right? But I was able to acknowledge, like, damn, I was pretty shitty in that moment. And I apologized, in my own end. And I told myself that I was going to be a better man than him. That I was going to take all the good parts of who he was as a man, a hard worker, who he was early on in my mom's relationship with my mom, being a lover, being a good husband, even to some degree being a better father than he was if I ever had children, right? And that's part of how I healed. I know not everybody's going to have access to that, but you have to go through that. You have to forgive yourself. You have to forgive them. You have to realize it's not your fault. And I can tell you right now, there's such a big difference in who I am as a person now than who I was in my 20s, early 20s. And I'm glad I was able to overcome that and learn to live with it, because I do try to be a better man than my biological father. I do try to be a better husband than my biological father. Where he wasn't there, like he was abusive. I have never thought to lay a hand on my wife. I protect my wife emotionally. I protect her, socially. I protect my wife. I do all the things that my mom wished that my dad did, that maybe he should have done. And so I look at that stuff and I'm like, I am trying to be a better man than he is. And I'm sure some of my students are watching this and they may chime in the chat and tell you, Mr. Guerrero is a great man. And some may not. I don't know. I do hear it a lot from my students that I'm a great man. That I hear from, especially my older ones who are, graduated long, I still talk with them here and there. They do tell me, like, a man like me that came into their life in that moment helped change their trajectory. And that's the man I want to be. I don't need to have a Bugatti. I don't need to have, flying in a private jet. I don't need all that shit. I just want to be a good man that helps change the trajectory of people's lives. In a good way, right? I want them to be their authentic self. Because if me today could go back and help my father, shit, the world would be it would be different, right? He may be alive, he may be in my life, but I will be real with you. You can't go back and change it. And I don't think I would anyway. because I got really blessed, super blessed, that I get an awesome stepdad. And I will say it, he is not perfect by any means. My stepfather is not perfect. He has a lot of bad qualities that I got to see, and I'm glad I was able to not pick those up. But I got really lucky, and I wouldn't trade that in. You know, to be able to get a stepfather. And yes, my stepfather wasn't the greatest to me, but I learned a lot from him on being a man and those expectations. So I couldn't go back, and I wouldn't go back and change it. And I know some people are like, man, but you could, but you can't, you know. I got very lucky to get a great stepdad, and I know some kids, they can get a crappy parent, and they keep getting crappy parents. So I'm lucky I got a pretty solid stepdad at that. But yeah, guys, I mean, speaking to anybody, get help. You know, this journey is not the easiest. And I know some people are going to be like, well, you didn't have a lot of help. You're right. I didn't do therapy early on in life. I wish I would have. But I will say this, guys. A lot of the work I did, it was outside of therapy. Yes, therapy helped guide me in that process. But just because you leave therapy, that does not mean it ends. You have to keep doing the work by yourself. And so I'm really glad of the work I've did. And I know some people will talk crap on here, and cool, do you, bro? But I'm really glad I was able to work through a lot of that stuff. Because at the end of the day, guys, that's the stuff that can hold you back from being a good parent, you know, being good, you know, getting your shit done in life. In my case, you know, it stopped me from wanting to always punch people in the face. Yes. And trust me, guys, when I say that I want to punch people in the face, I do. I really do. Even my students that joke around, like, man, Mr. You always you say you want to punch somebody in the face. I'm like, I really do. And why do I say that to them? It's because it shows them that you can still want to do that and have self-control. But yeah, let me know down in the comments, man. Can y'all relate to my story about, like, having that father who maybe didn't love you, or it was abusive to your mother, or even just a parent in general, right? Let me know down in the comments, because I know I'm not the only one alone. And I think that's why I want to share this story and how I kind of went through it and how I overcame it to some degree. So let me know down in the comments. I would really appreciate it. Like, you know, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn and say, like, oh my God, I'm so brave. It does take bravery to speak your truth. And I have a lot of practice. This is something I tell students. I have a lot of practice, and I try to teach them to be able to speak their truth and understand that their truth is not always right. Yep, sorry people, you might get mad for me saying that. But just because it's your truth doesn't mean it's always right. Oh no, I messed up. No. So let me know, man. Speak your truth down in the comments. I'd really appreciate it personally. Because at the end of the day, my firm belief is that you're not in this alone. You know, there's people that are willing to help you grow, to be a better person, to help you move past these traumas in your life, right? there's so many students I have encountered in my life that tell me, man, I'm so glad you came into my life. You helped me grow. And so we're here for each other. And if we can't be here for each other, man, this life's hard. I wish I would have known this growing up. I wish I would have known that would be other people in this world that would have my back. Because no matter how tough you are, tanking the world by yourself, just tanking it, man, I can do that. But then I start missing out on the good stuff of life. And I don't want to miss the good stuff in life. And I'm sure you don't. And the more you keep it inside your heart and you let it create resentment and hate, the more you're going to miss out. And I will tell you, the effects of me understanding my dad and understanding he loved me and forgiving him, it freed me. And I feel so much better within my own skin, within my own life. And I'm more willing to dance in life. And when I don't mean physically dance, but to participate. It really helped me unlock a different layer of confidence. And that's what moving through your traumas and understanding who you are, it helps you level up. It's like an RPG, right? That's something you got to work through and you got to level up. And so, yeah, I know some of you are probably like, oh, this guy's sharing a sappy story. Well, if you're one of those people, fuck you. Moving on. But I hope that there's somebody out there that would really appreciate what I have to say and know that life's hard. And that no matter who you are and who you see in the world, because I'm a big ass dude. I'm like 6'3 and a half, 270 pounds, not an obese dude. I'll punch you in the face. I look mean. But that doesn't mean that I don't have a story. That doesn't mean that I haven't gone through stuff. And so next time you see somebody, don't just judge them on how they look. Understand they have a story. Understand they have a story behind who they are as people, as a person in this fucked up place we call Earth. And if we just have a little bit more compassion for each other, just a little bit, maybe the world will be a better place. I'm going to leave y'all out on that. Be compassionate. Because maybe it'll help make this world just a little bit easier and better for all of us. With that said, this is So Crates 1. And I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out, guys.